First, I want to say welcome to the course. We're going to be spending a fair bit of time together going through a number of topics. I really appreciate that you chose this course to learn more about security testing and penetration testing and all of the tools and techniques that are around, particularly using open source software. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on commercial software just to get started. You can really learn the concepts very well for free using open source software. And we're going to be spending a fair bit of time using that. Getting started, what do you need? Well, certainly you need an interest in doing some of this work. You probably need a bit of knowledge about operating systems and how they function so that you can get around. We're going to be using a couple of different operating systems. You should probably know a bit about networks because ultimately we're going to be communicating over networks. And ideally, you should have the ability to run virtual machines. It will make your life a lot easier if you can get a copy of VMware, Parallels, VirtualBox, something along those lines so that you can install operating systems so that you've got both attack systems and you've got target systems to work with. So the operating systems that we're going to be using Kali Linux, we'll be using Windows, and then for targets, I've got a copy of Metasploitable, which is available for free if you just go do a search for Metasploitable. You'll see a couple of different versions. I'm using version 2. You can use either version 2 or 3, it doesn't really much matter. And I'm using Windows as well. So the topics that we're going to cover, we're going to talk about what security testing is and the types of things that you need to know in order to get started doing security testing. We're going to talk about reconnaissance and the various techniques that you can use to recon your targets. We're going to talk about scanning, both network scanning, and we're going to be talking about vulnerability scanning as well. We'll also spend a lot of time talking about how to exploit vulnerabilities. We'll be using Metasploit for that. And we'll also talk some about various client side attacks. So, if you're ready to get started, before we go, you probably want to obtain a copy of Kali Linux. Most of what I'll be doing over the next several dozen videos is going to be inside Kali Linux. We're going to be working with Windows a little bit, but frankly, it's just a lot easier to use Kali because everything that we're going to be doing is already there. You don't have to go get additional software and install it and go through all of that hassle. Everything that we're going to be working with is already right inside Kali. And so it makes life a lot easier. Learning Linux, if you don't know it, is also a really important skill to have if you're going to be doing any sort of security testing because so many tools really only work inside of Linux. You really should get a really good handle on Linux, and Kali is a good place to get started if you don't have that skill. If you're ready to go, we can move on and just get started.